Yeah, thanks a lot. Look, I've got to apologise a bit. I was hoping to do the full reveal, but things get in the way, and I can't do a full reveal. But I'm going to give you a bit of a taster. So think of this as sort of the entree. So it was interesting hearing Roz's talk because I've been working in the design and the interaction space and experience design space for a long time, but mostly with museums and libraries. And thinking about what do we need them to do for and with our communities. And so when I came to Melbourne, having spent time in New York and in Sydney and working with lots of museums and libraries around the world, and also with a lot of design firms as well, collaborating with them to deliver the sort of experiences you get in museums and libraries. When I came here, I was like, this is this amazing building in the middle of Federation Square, in the middle of Melbourne, and yet everything it's about, film, TV, video games, you don't need to go to the building for, right? So how do we design a purposeful place that changes your mind about film, TV, and video games? So we call ourselves the National Museum of Film, TV, Video Games, Digital Culture and Art. We've been around since 2002, but our past goes all of the way back to the 1940s. So we were the State Film Centre. But from 2002 on, this notion of being the National Museum of film, TV, video games is really all the stuff you can now get on your phone, right? Or better, sit on the couch at home, maybe your bed with your tablet, whatever. But that's really an interesting challenge, and so that's sort of what we've been working on for the last couple of years, is this sort of repositioning and reshifting to become something that is an active, dynamic museum that changes people's minds. Melbourne, of course, in terms of moving image culture, has been at the centre of many firsts. A lot of people don't kind of realise this, and I didn't realise how important Melbourne was. Growing up in Sydney, I'd never thought I'd live actually in Melbourne, but it's great. So anyway, whatever. 1906, Melbourne was the very first in the world feature film came out of Melbourne, right? And Hollywood then ate it up. The industry and all of that was swallowed by Hollywood. One of the first Australian video games, the first Australian video game was made in Melbourne too, right? I actually played this when I was a kid, so, anyway. And when the institution launched in 2002, Julian Oliver, who's an amazing sort of media artist now, made an entire interactive virtual world that took people in Federation Square and people on kind of line to this parallel Federation Square. And what was interesting about this was before Second Life. This was before all of that. Julian's gone off and done amazing work now. He's in Berlin now and doing amazing critical engineering work. That's actually how he describes himself now. Of course, the museum itself has a collection. We have a collection of films, TV, home movies that we've been digitising, and video games, very old video games. This is an old Commodore 64 game on a tape, right? The things. And for the last five years, since our new director, not really new anymore, Katrina Sedgwick started, we've been fixing things. So you might have noticed that we've been improving the Federation Square site, but hearing Roz's talk, I thought it was important to also stress we've been changing the way services run there. So we've been doing a lot of work working with firms to improve the experience, so the design of the space and the design of the services within it. And we've been experimenting throughout all the exhibits that we've done in the last 3 to 4 years. We've been working with small companies, larger companies, and building new types of exhibits. So if you visited in the last couple of years, you might have seen this immersive projection of mapped experience, Tea Party done by Grumpy Sailor. That's now toured with the exhibition to Singapore, and it's running now in Te Papa in New Zealand before it heads off to Europe, where it'll be in Rotterdam. So these exhibitions that we make are experimenting, but also then sold out to the world. That exhibition too, Sandpit made this really fun paper map that visitors got through that exhibition that came alive throughout the exhibition, right? So we've been experimenting with technologies that are very obvious and visible, but also ones that are more analogue with a digital twist. And as a result of that too, we've been also rebooting the sense of commissioning new types of art from new artists and new types of media. So these are 4 things. Daniel Crooks's work up the top left. Soda Jerks, Terra Nullius in the bottom left, that's been doing the rounds of the festivals and is a hilarious, excellent mashup, post-colonial feminist mashup of Australian film. Super great, anyway. Zanny Begg's work up at the top that's just been up in Sydney, that's a generative crime thriller. So every time it plays, it remixes the order of sequences to change the story that is told. And in the bottom right, Sandpit's immersive VR theatre production, which is a physical piece as much as it is a VR theatre piece. So those pieces are also coming into our collection. So when museums collect things, they have to promise to preserve them for like decades, if not centuries. How do you preserve a VR piece? The headsets die after three months and have evolved to something else. So that's also another thing we've been working on, is this notion of how do we preserve contemporary media in kind of to the future when the platforms they are on are incredibly fragile. Also, you might have noticed we've set up a co-working space and accelerator program X. So my offices are based in here, and we come across lots of small makers and businesses in our day-to-day practice. So that's what's been going on for the last five years, and has been starting to sort of put pressure on. Well, probably the site at Federation Square needs to change to allow us to show those kind of things better and engage with visitors in new ways, in ways that you might now expect, because the rest of the world's changed. So it's time for a new museum at Federation Square, and this is just a little trailer roll, which does have some sound, theoretically. But that's okay. I was going to show you more stuff with more things, but I'll get to a little bit of the detail in a second. So let's look at some of those things a little closer. We're really in the values behind this now. We're really in this world where we can get recommendations from the machine and from the tracking of other people's preferences. We've flipped that a bit. So when I used to work at the Powerhouse and when I was working for the Smithsonian, I was very excited about recommender systems. I was very excited about tracking the music that I liked and then getting recommended music by, at that time, Last FM. So I actually have been tracking my music playback for the last, well, since 2006. So that's nearly 15 years. So I have this enormous JSON file that I can go back in time and look at the music, the specific track I listened to on a particular day at a particular time for the last 15 years. That hasn't in any way made music discovery better. Indeed, what we've seen in the age of Spotify now is music has become relegated to a mood. Liz Pelly's written amazing work about this, and we've lost the sense of humanness behind art and culture. So what we're trying to do with our new galleries is recenter a focus on human curation and the expertise that people have. Now, this is enhanced by machines and ML and all of those other technologies, but we're doubling down on the human side of it. And this sense, as you saw with the paper map, analog that's enhanced by kind of digital rather than replaced by. And the sense in terms of design talk, when we talk about our technology, we talk about approachability. And when we talk about design and the design of services, we also talk about approachability. We don't talk about frictionless or these sorts of things, but humanness and approachability. Friction's actually a really good thing. Friction makes for a sense of grit and a sense of personality. So, as I said right up front, the museum wants to make a difference in our world. Our world's a little bit on fire at the moment, depending on how you feel about that. It's important that our cultural institutions have opinions and are places where opinions can be challenged and also debated. But in order to do that, they need to be purposeful rather than seamless and frictionless. Again, grit matters. So we're pretty clear. We want you to come to this museum and to change your mind or be curious about trying to watch or play other things. If we just gave you the things we knew through our design research you wanted, we would not be doing our kind of job. So these are some very early visual tools, the optical tools, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, phenakistoscopes. And of course we might remember the Viewmaster reels of our childhoods. They're coming back, right? Yeah. So when you come to the museum now, you'll be given a thing we're calling the kind of lens. Now the lens is, we've been working with Swinburne Centre for Design Innovation to make a lens, which is this tool, that is fully recyclable, biodegradable and take home. So you will get a lens, you'll get this thing called the lens, and the lens allows you to do a bunch of things. The lens allows you to collect everything that you see, take it home, watch it, play it kind of later. Okay, so you can come to the museum with your family or by yourself or with your friends and move through the museum collecting things that you want to know more about later or you just want to show your friends. Now we could all do that of course with our phones and take photos of stuff. That's cool, but it doesn't link to anything beyond that. We could fill the galleries with QR codes and we would have all sorts of people trying to crowd around taking photos of QR codes. Tumblr, you know what I'm talking about there. Does anybody use QR codes? Anyway, the idea is you've got something that isn't your phone in kind of your hand. You can collect everything, you can take selfies, but you can go home, watch it, play it kind of later. And that's because when we curate experiences there and our curators choose kind of things, we have made particular choices. We've made particular choices co-designed with communities because we believe these kind of things are important. And we want to convince you that they are. And the lens and other parts of the experience design are about asserting that. So here's some of the things we have. This is Tari Mackenzie's Pepper's Ghost. The Pepper's Ghost is an early optical illusion. It's sort of a little bit like early holograms. This is a beautiful work which creates this quite spooky effect. This is one of the first kind of things you see in the new galleries. We have amazing shadow puppets, old theatre sets, shadow theatre sets, praxinoscopes, magic lanterns, which used to play these magic lantern slides, which I guess are an early form of GIF. And of course, when we talk about GIFs, the amazing work that Muybridge was doing that was showing that horses actually fly, all their legs are off the ground at once, which wasn't known prior to this work, which was capturing the motion of a horse frame by frame. Similarly here, as I say, these are just some things. I wouldn't even call them highlights. They're just scattered things. Cameras, we have a whole section now on factual documentation, so documentary making, news making, and then also as a result of that, propaganda and other things like that. These tools that have become super democratized also have a range of spin-off effects from that democratization that are quite exciting. We also have a lot more experiential large-scale moving image displays that really capture the feeling of how filmmakers, TV makers, and game makers as well create emotion and transmit complex ideas through moving image. Microphones. Mad Max car is back, but as you probably saw previously, we've cut it in half. So it's been cut in half. This is on one side, and the other side of the car is the Bush Mechanics car. This was from a series that ran in the 1990s. That's on the other side, which is kind of cool. So a lot of first kind of nation storytelling is centred in the Australian section of the galleries, and we're working with an Indigenous Advisory Committee and also in kind of Indigenous curators to tell different types of stories. Lots of stuff about visual effects. One of the big shifts in Melbourne, of course, is the huge visual effects influence that we have here. A lot of visual effects for the major blockbuster films are done here in Melbourne, not to mention TV series as well, Game of Thrones, but also all the Marvel films. Also very early video games. This was probably the first console video game. This was called the Brown Box by Ralph Baer. That became the Magnavox well before my time, but was the precursor of television video gaming. We also have, as we've been showing, a lot of concept art and things about film and television. We're doing the same with video games. So again, Melbourne, huge rebirth of video game making here. In fact, others have called it the new art school. People go to make video games or video game-like things instead of going to make paintings and sculpture. It's kind of exciting. So we're showing again the process. So again, this big shift from just showing the final works to now showing the process. We have a bunch of interactive experiences. This is the Foley Studio, where you learn how when filmmakers and TV makers when they record the vision, they're not actually recording the sound, and all the sound is made separately. Perhaps with things that you don't think they would use. So that's that. The other thing, one of the other really exciting things we've been prototyping with Grumpy Sailor has been this thing called, that's tentatively known as the edit kind of line. It's kind of like a mashup kind of maker. So this is a long multiplayer or multi-user experience with physical blocks. Those physical blocks can contain little quotes from films, and you can make sentences out of them. Again, if there was sound, this would be working really well. Let's go back. Let's try that again.
I am your awesome fuzzball.
Etc. So that's going to be fun, right? We don't know what's going to be in that yet, but that's going to be kind of playful. Again, that sort of sense of you know what each of those phrases was going to be like, and then you remix it as you go. Finally, at the end of the galleries is this thing we're calling the constellation. So what's interesting about this is we know that not everything fits in the galleries. And we know that everything we've put in the galleries connects conceptually. We could all come up with things that Napoleon Dynamite makes us think of, for example. So our curators and others have been working on making constellations of media. So from a universe of film, TV and games, we're drawing out the connections between different films and video games, different video games and television series, different television series and memes. So as you come to this experience, which also has a large data visualization piece, your lens will reveal other works that are human recommended to you to continue to take home, watch and play. So that's where everything that you've collected gets connected to stacks and stacks of other things. So what we're trying to do is position your visit to the museum as a start, not an end. It's a start of a journey down 1,000 rabbit holes, which will probably annoy parents who are like, we just want to get our kids off the screens, and you've just given them a stack more stuff to go and do. But hopefully the parents are watching things and playing things with their kids. That's the point, right? So when you go home, you log in and keep watching and playing. Prototype of the new website stuff. Everything that you've collected in your lens gets shown by time order. Take that home, watch and play. So opening middle of the year-ish, come and visit. Thanks a lot.